Let's begin in the nation's capital city of Abuja, where the Supreme Court says it is now legal for Nigerians to spend the old 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes across the country. This is happening on a day the court ruled against the naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Apex Court also ordered the central bank to allow both the old naira notes and the new ones to circulate side by side till the end of the year. The court added that President Buhari's disobedience of the 8th of February order is a sign of dictatorship. Judiciary correspondent Celestine Area reports.
The Supreme Court has invalidated all directives issued by President Muhammadu Buhari in respect to the naira redesign and circulation on the grounds that they are illegal and an abuse of executive powers. The Apex Court took a swipe at President Buhari for disobeying its interim order of 8 February to the effect that the old naira is allowed to be in circulation. Justice Emmanuel Alguem held that the president exhibited and took the disobedience to the highest peak with his broadcast on February 16, in which he allowed only 200 naira notes alone. The court held that the president acted ultra-vires by his glaring failure to consult with the National Council of States, the Federal Executive Council, and the National Economic Council, before directing the Central Bank of Nigeria to unlawfully introduce the new naira notes. The unconstitutional use of power by President Buhari on naira redesign, it says, has breached the fundamental rights of Nigerian citizens in various ways. The Apex Court said such use of power by President Muhammadu Buhari is not permitted under democracy and in a plural society like the Nigerian nation. Amongst others, the Supreme Court held that the unlawful use of executive power by the president inflicted unprecedented economic hardship on the citizens by denying them ownership of their monies and access to the money.
Victory for Nigerians, because this policy, which was designed and targeted at a political party and its candidates, has brought untold hardship on our people. This is why the three of us took a decision to come to the Supreme Court.
This particular decision today has proven that Nigerian law is a respecter of no one, including Mr. President. Nobody can take the laws for granted.
Many people have been challenging us that because we have huge amount of money that we put in our houses, that's why we come to court. But you know it is not true, because like myself, I challenge EFCC that they should go to any of my property and boggle it and take any money that they have seen in my houses.
The Supreme Court in its findings dismissed a preliminary objection raised by the Attorney General of the Federation, Bayelsa State and Edo State. The court held that the president cannot unilaterally make such decisions without consulting with his cabinet. The court also found that the disobedience of President Muhammadu Buhari is a sign of dictatorship. Celestina Area, TVC News, Abuja.
To walk us through this judgment delivered by the Supreme Court earlier today on the naira redesign policy, let's talk to the Jigawa State Attorney General, Musa Aliyu, who joins us live from our Abuja studio. Dr. Aliyu, thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. Let me begin by getting your reaction to this Supreme Court judgment.
Yeah, my sister, good evening. Our reaction to this judgment is that we are really happy, highly elated, because the Supreme Court has really showed that it is the court for the whole country, and it is the court that is always promoting rule of law and the deepening of our democracy.
Prior to this judgment, what was the situation in Jigawa State? Were people able to spend the old naira note in line with the interim order of the Supreme Court?
No, what the situation in Jigawa State before this judgment was that the old naira notes were never used as a legal tender, despite the fact that there was an interim order issued by the Apex Court. After that interim order, the Jigawa State government issued public notice, whereby directing the members of the public to use their old currency, since there was a substitute court order at that time. But still, we were faced with challenges that people were not using their old notes because the banks and other institutions were not collecting the money because of the fear that the Central Bank of Nigeria has already made a specific pronouncement that is stood by what the directive of the Mr. President. So that was why we couldn't use the money as a government, and also the indigenous of Jigawa State or the people living in Jigawa State were not able to use the money despite the court order.
So now that the Supreme Court has finally decided this case, what steps will the Jigawa State government take to ensure that residents would go out there and use these old naira notes so that there will be an ease in the economy?
Yes, what we will do, the Constitution has already given all legal authorities in Nigeria to enforce the decision of the Supreme Court. And what we will do is that we will ensure that all banks, other financial institutions, and government agencies are collecting the money as directed by the Supreme Court. And we will ensure that any individual or authority who refuse to comply with the court order, we will ensure that we use the law, we force him to use the old naira notes, which is still a valid legal tender. That is the 200, the 500, and the 1,000 naira old notes.
But already, do you have mechanism in place, to monitor the level of compliance on the streets such that you are able to wield the big stick when necessary?
Yes, we have mechanism. We have there's Consumer Protection Agency, which is empowered to ensure that the rights of consumers are protected in our state. And also we have the channel which we use to communicate all our resolution and decisions. And we will use the media to also inform public that as of from today, that the old 1,200 and 500 naira notes are being collected. And anybody who refuses to collect it, we have the power to take him before appropriate court if he refused to comply with the decision of the apex court. And also there are other mechanisms which we will use to ensure that, most especially banks, that they comply with this order of the Supreme Court. If they fail to do that, like I've told you, there are courts and others. And also, even members of the public, they have rights to demand their money from the banks to withdraw any amount of money they want. And if banks refuse to do that, they can sue them because there is contractual relationship between bank and customer. And banks have no right to limit the cash withdrawal of any individual. Whatever amount of money any individual want to withdraw, not only in Jigawa State, in the whole country, the banks are under legal duty to ensure that they avail the people with their own money, because like what the Supreme Court said, that this money belongs to the individual and the government. And when they request their money, nobody has right to refuse to give them their money, because it's just like you have kept your money in a safe and you want to remove it from there. So nobody should prevent you from taking your money. Like I've said, there are other mechanisms which will ensure that all the agencies, all the banks, and the individuals comply with that. We also use traditional rulers, because our states, we have that channel whereby we communicate all our things through the traditional rulers, so that they will take this information down to the rural areas, so that people will be able to use this the old naira notes of 500, 1,000, and 200 naira.
All right, Dr. Musa Aliyu. Well, we'll now be waiting on the commercial banks to actually take action, and we hope there won't be an excuse of their hands being tied, waiting for a clear directive from the CBN before they comply with the Supreme Court judgments. Dr. Musa Aliyu, State Attorney General, Jigawa State, thank you very much for joining us on TVC News at 7.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.